They thought she couldn't hear them. They thought her silence meant weakness. But today, in front of an entire classroom, a deaf black girl tapped a signal to her service dog. And what happened next exposed a truth no one saw coming. Stay with us, because this story isn't just about survival, it's about strategy, strength, and a quiet kind of justice that speaks louder than any scream. If this moved you, hit the like button, drop a comment, and don't forget to follow for the full story. It only gets deeper from here. Does she even understand me? The words cut through the stale, lemon-scented air of the Willow Ridge Academy front office like a shard of glass. Ari didn't flinch. She'd heard versions of it before. But her mother did. Her pen stopped mid-signature. Her lips tightened. She's deaf, her mom said slowly, not cold, but firm. Not invisible. The receptionist blinked, cheeks flushing. Oh, I didn't mean. People rarely do, her mom said. Returning to the clipboard, Ari stood off to the side, one hand gently stroking the soft fur behind Shadow's ears. Her service dog didn't bark. He never did, but she could feel the tension in his body. The way he shifted his weight like he was waiting for a command. He sensed it too, the discomfort cloaked in customer service smiles. The patronizing tone that smelled like old perfume and microaggressions. Ari's eyes swept the front office. Posters about diversity and learning, and we all belong plastered every wall. But none featured anyone like her. Not black, not deaf, not both. Tell her. The receptionist leaned forward. Her voice louder now, as if volume could bridge the gap between hearing and understanding. We're so excited to have her join the Willow Ridge family. Ari raised her eyebrows and turned to her mom with a small smirk. Her hands moved fast and sharp. She thinks I'm a guest at someone else's dinner party. Her mom chuckled under her breath, then signed back. Eat everything. Leave no crumbs. The heavy office door creaked open behind them. Ms. James, came a crisp male voice. Mr. Bledsoe, English department. I'll be Ari's homeroom teacher. Ari turned. Tall, middle-aged. Glasses, clean press shirt, pale skin, thin smile. He looked like a man who corrected grammar on restaurant menus. He didn't greet her with signs, just a curt nod. We're eager to integrate her, he said. We've had limited experience with students like her, but we're open-minded. Students like her? Her mom asked. He cleared his throat. You know, special cases. Ari could practically feel the heat rising in her mother's jaw, but she stepped in. She signed, slow and deliberate. I'm not a special case. I'm a student, same as anyone else. He stared at her hands for a beat too long before glancing at the dog. That's Shadow, her mom explained. He's trained to detect emotional distress. He's registered, fully compliant. ADA law. Bledsoe nodded, but his jaw clenched. Of course, as long as he doesn't disrupt instruction. Shadow stared straight at him. Ari's heart thudded once, heavy. Later, she wouldn't remember what made her do it. Instinct, maybe. But she tapped a quick signal on Shadow's side. Not the alert, not the emergency code, just a soft pulse. Shadow didn't budge, but his head tilted. His eyes never left Mr. Bledsoe. Ari noticed something strange then. The teacher's smile flickered. For just a second, something slipped behind his eyes. A crack in the mask. And in that crack, Ari saw something cold. It was gone just as fast. Well, Bledsoe said briskly, stepping back toward the hall. Shall we? As Ari followed him out of the office and down the polished hallway. Her fingers brushed the soft fur of Shadow's back again. Not for reassurance, but confirmation. She didn't know why yet, but she didn't trust that man. Not at all. And soon, neither would anyone else. The classroom was too quiet. Not the peaceful kind. More like that awkward, held breath kind. The kind that settled in when people didn't know what to say, or didn't want to say it around you. Ari stepped inside, her shoes barely scuffing the polished floor. 20 pairs of eyes flicked up from desks. Some stared too long. Others avoided her completely. A few looked at Shadow like he was the main event. Bledsoe clapped his hands once. Everyone, this is Ari James. She'll be joining us for the semester. Please make her feel welcome. His voice was too tight around the word welcome, like it had been vacuum sealed. Ari's gaze swept the room. No one signed. No one waved. Just a few half smiles, and one boy whispering something behind a notebook that made the girl next to him snort. Shadow leaned slightly into Ari's leg. Alert, but still grounded. She's accompanied by a service animal, Bledsoe continued. So please refrain from petting or distracting him. He's here for medical reasons. Medical reasons. Ari resisted the urge to roll her eyes. I'll have her sit near the back for minimal disruption, he added quickly, like she was a walking fire alarm. The back of the room. Of course. She caught her mom's face just before the door closed, calm but watchful. Lips pressed tight, eyes steady. Bledsoe motioned to the back corner. You can take that seat, Ari. There's an outlet nearby for your whatever you need. Whatever you need. She signed under her breath to Shadow. He talks like I'm luggage with feelings. Shadow's tail gave one soft thump. As she moved toward the desk, someone stuck their foot out. Not enough to trip her, but enough to make her hesitate. She didn't flinch, just looked down at the foot, up at the girl. The girl blinked, smiled like nothing happened. Adi saw. Shadow curled at her feet like a silent shadow. Bledsoe cleared his throat. Now, as we were discussing before our guest arrived. Ari's jaw clenched. Guest. Again. She opened her laptop slowly, eyes scanning the room. A boy, too, rose a head, glanced back, then looked away quickly. Guilt in the neck. She clocked it. The lesson blurred in and out. Bledsoe didn't bother slowing his speech. No captions on the PowerPoint. No interpreter. No gestures. Just his voice at the board. Face turned away half the time. Pacing. Writing. Turning back too late. He didn't care if she understood. He wanted her present, but not involved. Seen, but not integrated. At one point, he called on her to answer a question. Ari, he gestured to the board. Can you, share your thoughts? She stared at him blankly. He hadn't signed the question, hadn't written it, just spoken it in that rushed, clipped tone of his. She lifted her hands. Did you ask me a question? He blinked. I never mind. Anyone else? A low chuckle rippled through the room. Ari sat back, expression unreadable, but her chest buzzed like a live wire. Not from embarrassment, from focus. She started typing, fast, furious keystrokes. Day 1, 9:14 a.m. No interpreter. No visual aid. No clear communication. Teacher refused to repeat question. Attempted to call on student without access. Shadow stirred. She reached down and tapped a code into his back. 3 soft taps. Log behavior. He didn't move, but he remembered, and later. So would everyone else. The hallway smelled like bleach and something old, maybe despair. Ari walked with Shadow, pressed to her side. His movements in sync with hers, like they shared a secret language no one else could hear. A boy bumped her shoulder as he passed. Not hard, not enough to call out, but she felt it. The flick of his eyes, the smirk after. She turned, lifted a brow. He didn't stop walking. She signed low to Shadow. Remember that one. Lunch was worse. She scanned the cafeteria. Tables clumped by noise, culture, clique. Some kids talked with their mouths full. Others scrolled their phones while food went cold. Not a single hand moved in sign. She chose the end of a long table near the wall. Shadow settled at her feet. A girl slid onto the bench across from her. Light skin, tight curls. Glossy nails tapping her tray. You the one with the dog? Ari nodded once. The girl pointed her fork. They say you're like deaf, but you can still read lips. Ari answered by signing. I can also read condescension. The girl blinked. Okay then, I was just asking. Ari softened. I read lips, but it's not perfect. Depends on the speaker. You got a name? Ari. I'm Keisha. If you ever want to sit with somebody who doesn't treat you like your furniture, come find me. Ari's lips twitched. The next class was history. Bledsoe was worse here, more performative. Now class, he said with a sweeping hand toward Ari. Let's be mindful of all our classmates. Some people face unique challenges, so let's be extra respectful today. Ari folded her arms. Keisha signed across the room. That was so fake. Ari's fingers moved fast. He wants applause for noticing I exist. The lesson dragged on. Bledsoe didn't write key points. He rambled, faced away from her, made jokes about woke history, and glanced sideways like she was supposed to laugh. Later that week, it happened. She entered the room, sat quietly. Shadow didn't even need to be commanded anymore. He just knew. Her stillness, her tension. Bledsoe slammed a stack of books on her desk. Try keeping up today. She flinched. Just a hair. But Shadow shifted. Alert. What's his problem? Bledsoe sneered. He looks ready to bite. Ari met his gaze, steady. Signed slowly. You're agitating him. Please step back. I'm the teacher. Not the janitor, he muttered, too loud, walking away. That night, Ari typed until her fingers ached. Log entry. Thursday teacher physically slammed objects on desk. Shadow showed alert behavior. Teacher made derogatory remarks. Implied threat. She reviewed the footage from her lapel cam. Silent, but clear. Her mom had insisted she wear one just in case. She didn't plan to use it, yet. Friday came like a storm cloud. Bledsoe handed out papers. He skipped hers, walked right by. Keisha whispered, he acting bold today. Ari held up her phone and typed. Didn't give me the test. Keisha's brows shot up. He's serious? Ari nodded. Then Bledsoe circled back, dropped her paper on the desk with a smirk. Didn't want to confuse you. This one's in plain English. It was dumbed down, larger font, fewer questions, no essay section. Ari stared at it. Something burned behind her ribs. She looked up at him and smiled. Then she took out her phone and photographed both sides. That night, she filed a formal request for an IE peer review. Attached the modified test. Labeled the photos. Time-stamped. She didn't rage. She documented. The weekend brought quiet. The kind that simmers before a boil. Her mom poured tea and asked, You ready? Ari nodded. He keeps digging his own hole. I'm just holding the shovel. By Monday, the guidance counselor pulled her into an office that smelled like hand sanitizer and secrets. We've reviewed your email, the woman said. Are you sure you're interpreting things correctly? Mr. Bledsoe is a respected educator. Ari didn't flinch. She slid her phone across the table. I have recordings. He modifies my work without cause. Doesn't follow my communication plan. Humiliates me in front of classmates. And my dog's alert behaviors are logged. Want to see the footage? The counselor blinked. We don't allow recording on campus. I'm legally allowed to record situations that concern my disability rights. Silence. Ari leaned back. You can either take this seriously, or I'll let the state take it from here. The woman's expression shifted. Not anger, fear. Ari knew then. This system only responded to risk, not morality. She would become the risk. Later that day, Bledsoe's tone changed. Too careful. Too fake. Let's all give Ari a round of applause for her excellent work this week. Claps scattered weakly around the room. Ari didn't smile. She just raised her hand. Yes. Bledsoe asked. She signed slowly. I'll be speaking at the board meeting next week. I hope you'll come. The clapping stopped. Keisha choked on her water. Shadow nudged Ari's knee, tail thumping once. She didn't need to win by shouting. She was already winning by showing. The school board meeting buzzed like a hive before the queen arrives. Rows of chairs filled with teachers, parents, and administrators who didn't know they were about to witness something they'd remember for years. Ari stood in the back, hands folded, Shadow at her feet, calm, focused, unmoving. Keisha leaned close and whispered, You got this. Just don't punch nobody. Ari smiled without humor. Don't need to. The meeting dragged on, budget updates, cafeteria complaints. A parent upset about vending machines not offering gluten-free snacks. Then Ari's name was called. She walked to the front, spine straight, footsteps silent. When she reached the mic, she didn't speak. She handed over her tablet. A woman from Disability Advocacy Services stood beside her, already briefed, already furious. She'll be signing. I'll interpret, the advocate said. Ari lifted her hands. I tend the school with a service animal because I am deaf. I am not confused. I am not helpless. I am not here to be pitted. I am here because I have a right to learn. The room fell still. My teacher, Mr. Bledsoe, consistently violates my educational rights. He has mocked me, altered my exams, withheld materials, and created a hostile classroom. I have documented every instance. Gasps, shifts in chairs. Bledsoe, seated near the back, turned red beneath his beard. Ari paused and signed slowly. He is not the only one. My silence made others comfortable. That's over. The interpreter's voice cracked a little on the last word. The superintendent leaned forward. "Miss Thomas, do you have?" Ari tapped her tablet. A folder popped up. Videos, logs, photos, dates, all neatly labeled. She turned the tablet to face the board. The lawyer for the district took one look and whispered something urgent. Bledsoe stood. "This is out of context." Ari signed, calm and sharp. "I have the full context. Want me to play it?" He sat down. The next morning, whispers followed her like wind through a broken fence. Not mocking, not cruel, curious, respectful. A few students nodded as she passed. One girl gave her a quiet thumbs up. A boy in her chemistry class signed, "Thank you," with clumsy fingers. Ari blinked, then signed back, "You're welcome." But the fight wasn't over. By Thursday, the school launched an internal investigation. Bledsoe was on leave, not fired, and no one had addressed her IEP yet. In her mother's car that night, Ari stared out the window. "He'll come back. They'll wait until the attention dies down." Her mom's hand reached over, held hers gently, "So we don't let it die down." At school, a substitute filled in, nervous, polite, unsure how to speak, without sounding patronizing. Ari helped him. She didn't need him to be perfect, just honest. But then came the letter, folded, anonymous, left in her locker. "You think you're special because you have a dog? Stop acting like a victim. You just want attention." Ari read it twice, then once more slowly. She folded it, placed it in her pocket, and walked calmly to the office. She didn't cry. She didn't react. She submitted the letter, filed a report, and asked for access to locker surveillance. The secretary blinked at her like she wasn't used to a student knowing exactly what to request. That night, she added another log entry. Received threatening anonymous letter. Submitted to school administration. Requested footage. Waiting on response. She didn't sleep well. Shadow rested his head on her chest, breath warm and steady. She signed into the darkness, fingers brushing his fur. "You saw it. That's enough. We're still winning." Friday morning, she returned to her locker and found a sticky note pressed to the metal. "You're braver than you look. Keep going." No name, no handwriting she recognized. Ari smiled, just a little. During lunch, Keisha slid next to her and shoved a bag of chips toward her. "You gonna eat or just glare at your pudding like it owes you money?" Ari shook her head. Signed, "Had a rough night." "I know. I saw the letter." "You know, but word's out. Some people think you're stirring trouble." Ari's fingers paused. Keisha leaned in, serious now. "And a lot more people think you're the first person who had the guts to say what the rest of us whisper." That afternoon, the vice principal called her in. "We reviewed the footage. Can't clearly see who placed the note. We'll be increasing locker monitoring." Ari nodded. "Always." The waiting room outside the superintendent's office was too quiet. Ari sat with her mother, back straight, fingers resting gently on Shadow's harness. The dog didn't move. He never did, not unless she asked. The office smelled of burnt coffee and lemon-scented floor polish, the kind of smell that made everything feel sterile, scrubbed too clean to be honest. A secretary in a tight bun and neutral eyes called them in. Inside, a long wooden table stretched like a barrier. On one side sat the superintendent, a lawyer in a navy suit, and two board members whose names Ari had never cared to remember. On the other side, just her mom, and a representative from the local Deaf Rights Coalition. The superintendent folded his hands, voice soft, performative. "We want to apologize. What you've endured shouldn't have happened." Ari nodded once, expression unreadable. "We're offering a formal reprimand against Mr. Bledsoe. He'll be reassigned, not fired. But he won't be in your school again." Her fingers tensed. Her mother leaned in. "You're saying he keeps his pension? His title?" The lawyer cleared his throat. "There are contractual complexities." Ari lifted her hands, firm and steady. "I came here to learn. You hired a man who treated me like I was beneath him. You tolerated silence until I made it loud." The interpreter hesitated, then translated. Ari signed again, each motion deliberate. "This isn't accountability. This is optics. You're not protecting me. You're protecting yourselves." The room went still. Even the air seemed to pause, holding its breath. The superintendent blinked, surprised. He looked at her like she'd grown twice her size. "We understand your frustration. Would you be open to helping us revise our disability training program as a student leader?" Ari signed slowly, considering. "I'll help you fix it. But don't pretend it's generosity. It's what you owe." And still no anger in her, just steel wrapped in calm. Later that day, her mother pulled the car into the driveway of their small, sun-worn house. Ari sat there a moment before getting out. The wind moved gently through the trees, brushing her cheeks like the fingers of someone long gone and kind. Her mother rested a hand on her shoulder. "You're braver than I ever was at your age." Ari shook her head. "You made space for me to be." The next week, Bledsoe's departure was announced in 3 sentences on a Friday bulletin. Quiet, without apology. But the students? They made noise. Someone posted her boardroom video on TikTok. It went viral in 2 days. The clip where she stood silent while the interpreter's voice cracked hit 1 million views by Tuesday. Comments flooded in. "She's the calmest badass I've ever seen. This is how you fight back, with receipts. I feel like I can breathe again watching her." At school, everything shifted. Not loud, just enough. Teachers looked her in the eye more, not with pity, respect. Students asked if she could teach them a few signs. One day, a group of younger kids waited outside her class. One held a sign made of construction paper and glitter glue. "We love your dog and your courage." She cried in the bathroom for a full minute, then wiped her face and went right back to learning. Not because she had to, but because she could. Spring brought longer days and softer air. The halls didn't echo as harshly anymore. She caught kids watching her with admiration instead of confusion. One by one, they asked for help with small things: how to say sorry in ASL, how to sign thank you, how to listen without sound. In a school once built to make her feel other, she became a mirror, quietly helping others see themselves differently. Shadow walked beside her every day like a shadow of strength. Silent, loyal, watching. The kind of presence that said, "I will always show up for you." During a new staff orientation that summer, she stood before a room of teachers and admin with a clicker in one hand and her voice on screen through captions and ASL. "This is what ableism looks like. It's not always loud. Sometimes it's in the sigh when you realize I need an interpreter, or in the way you explain something once, then give up." They listened. They took notes. Some cried. By the time the new school year started, she had her own seat on the student advisory board. Her IEP had been restructured with her full involvement, and when the principal tried to shorten her speech at the school-wide assembly, she smiled and said, "I've been cut off enough." They gave her the mic. She held it like a sword. "You may not hear me, but now you'll have to listen." The crowd roared, hands in the air, fingers waving, the deaf sign for applause. She didn't need to be loud to be heard. Her story wasn't one of anger. It was one of dignity, of quiet resistance, of holding the line when everything in the world told her to shrink. And in the end, she didn't win because she fought back the way they expected. She won because she never let them turn her silence into surrender.